My father took my savings for safekeeping, but I later found out he'd spent it on himself, so I drained his account in return. Growing up, I learned pretty early that my dad was not someone I could trust. When I was 10, I saved up all summer from mowing lawns to buy a second-hand bike. I kept the cash in a jar in my room. One day it was gone. When I asked him, he laughed and said, "Money in a kid's hands is like candy to ants. You'd just waste it." He claimed he'd invested it for me, but I never saw a cent of it again. When I was 12, my school was having a camping trip that cost $40. I asked Dad if I could use some of the allowance money I'd been saving. He rolled his eyes and said, "What do you need camping for? Sleep in the backyard if you want adventure." He later told relatives that I wasn't the type to have friends anyway, as if that explained everything. At 14, I babysat for neighbors and made about $200 over a few months. I planned to buy art supplies. Dad found the envelope in my dresser and took it, telling me it was for family bills. That same week, he came home with a new fishing rod and cooler. When I asked about the money, he snapped, "Don't be selfish. I'm your father. Everything I have is yours, and everything you have is mine." By the time I was 17, I kept my earnings hidden at my best friend's house, but Dad still found ways to humiliate me. If I bought something new for myself, like a pair of sneakers, he'd loudly ask in front of family, "So where's my cut?" As if my money was automatically his. Fast forward to last year. I'm 24 now, working full-time, and finally had managed to save a decent amount, just over $8,000. I had plans to put it toward a down payment on a car. I kept it in a high-yield savings account separate from my main checking. One weekend, I went home to visit my parents. My dad was in a weirdly cheerful mood, offering me a beer and talking about how proud he was of me for being responsible. That should have been my first red flag. The following week, I logged into my account, and the money was gone, completely. I panicked and called the bank, who told me the funds had been transferred to another account, my father's. I called him immediately, demanding to know what the hell happened. He didn't even deny it. He said, "Relax, I'm keeping it safe for you. The economy's rough. I don't want you wasting that on some stupid car. You're still young, you have time to save more." When I told him it wasn't his decision to make, he scoffed, "Don't talk to me like I'm a thief. I've provided for you your whole life. You think $8,000 makes you independent? Grow up." I was shaking with anger. This was not keeping it safe. This was theft, and it wasn't the first time, just the biggest. I told him he had 48 hours to send the money back or I'd take action. He laughed and said, "What action? You wouldn't dare make this public. Imagine how selfish you'll look, going after your own father." That night, I decided I was done playing nice. I had access to some joint accounts he had added me to years ago for emergencies when I was in college. I never touched them because they were his, but now, I figured this counted as an emergency. I logged in and found over $10,000 sitting in his checking. I transferred every single penny to my own account, including the exact $8,000 he took from me. I took screenshots of the transaction for proof. The next day, he called me in a rage. "You stole from me," he shouted. I calmly said, "No, I took back what you stole from me, plus interest. Consider it repayment for the bike money, the babysitting money, and every other safekeeping you pulled over the years." He tried gaslighting me, saying, "That was all for your own good. You never appreciated what I did for you." I told him I appreciated having a roof over my head growing up, but that didn't make me his personal ATM. He demanded I return the rest of the money immediately. I told him I'd think about it, but only after he wrote me a signed statement that he would never touch my finances again. He refused, so I kept it all. The fallout was brutal. He tried to paint me as the ungrateful child to the rest of the family. At first, a few relatives called to scold me, but then I explained what happened in detail. I reminded them of all the times growing up when I mysteriously lost my savings and how he always justified it. Most of them went quiet. A few even admitted they had similar stories with him borrowing money and never paying it back. The best part? A week later, I got a call from my mom, who had been quiet through all this. She told me she'd gone through some of Dad's papers and found where he'd been planning to use my $8,000. Full story on channel. Link below.